So thank you, everybody. Just a quick review of the agenda for today. Myself and Josh Grabowski from Copeland Technologies, we will be going through a few different subjects today. One is just an introduction to Teams. Secondly is the use of OneNote within Teams. And then thirdly is tasks and planner and how to schedule to-dos and goals and things like that within 365. We'll finalize with some analytics and some other things that we'll be doing later on, and then we'll end with some question and answer. All right, let's get started. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna share my screen. All right. Josh, are you able to see my screen okay?
Yep, sure can. Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, look at that. And I'll try and talk a little quieter because I'm in a brand new office space and I'm probably a little echoey. So what we're looking at here is Microsoft Teams. And for those of you who may not know what Teams is, it is basically a central location for your organization and external parties, if you wish, to bring all communication and collaboration between the people in your organization, files that you're working on, projects you're working on, collect notes and documentation and other things in one central place that is integrated inside of Microsoft 365. So it can be used in many, many ways, and it also has the ability to clamp on other apps, other tools within 365 that you're already paying for in your subscription. And then lastly, there are developers and integrators out there that are constantly building new applications and new ways to integrate with this program. Okay. What we'll do is we'll just go through a top level of what Teams looks like. We have a demo environment here set up. On the left-hand side is our shortcuts that we have. We can change these however we want. We can add new ones, new apps to this if we want to by clicking on the ellipsis. And we can pretty much navigate to any spot in Teams we want to on the left-hand side. This right here is the actual Teams app. So you can see here we created a bunch of teams to go through with you. And at the very highest level is the team. So when creating a new team, you're thinking to yourself, hey, am I using this for a specific department? Am I using it for leadership? Meaning we have all of our department heads coming together into one team. Is it a project that includes a customer? So any way you want to carve off access to this information, you would create a team for that. There is security, so if I wanted to create a team that Josh himself wasn't allowed to see information in, I could do that. And I can also create security at lower levels as well. So the second level in is what's called a channel. So think of this as a channel of communication or a way to specify or bring in files and information and communication for one specific topic, one channel of communication. So for our customer onboarding, we just have this one team here, just the general one that comes with. We may say we want to have a sales channel where we talk about the sales piece of things and we don't let anybody else that's not in the sales department participate. So we've got a couple teams here. We've got our customer onboarding, we've got a project rollout or a project team, we've got our weekly one-to-ones, thinking like, for an example of that would be if Josh is in the technical account manager, he's part of my department, him and I are doing weekly one-to-ones, we can keep that information secure and confidential and have one-to-ones and utilize teams for that. You can also use it for engagement. So you can see here, we just have a podcast / reading list. We actually have this for our Copeland employees, and our employees can actually share what they're listening to, what they're reading, and especially in times like these when we're not physically in the office, it is allowing us to connect with each other. So it creates discussions, and we're also able to share things that we're interested in. What we'll go through now is just some of the little pieces inside of each team. At the top here, you can see that we have some tabs. Posts, which is your chat functionality. So it allows your team, whoever's inside of this team, to communicate with each other instantly when needed. It allows you to go back and forth in a conversation, so you can securely communicate with people in the office, people outside the office, people on site or in the field through mobile apps. It allows you to communicate with them all real time as if you were sitting at a computer. We can start a new conversation, which is just a new way to say something new. So I can send a message to Josh and I can @ Josh and say, Josh, customer ABC is down. Can you take a peek? And then Josh on his side, being inside of Teams, I'll get notified here when we see it. Perfect. And he responded in, and I can give a thumbs up. Okay. Some people think that, hey, doing emojis and doing the chat functionality and stuff like that, it's not professional, or it's it's a little strange. I'm telling you, I am fully on board with, when we use chat properly, utilizing chat. If there's an ASAP thing that everyone needs to know about, email is not the best way to do it. We have a central place where we post ASAP emergencies, and people can hop on it instantly. Where this doesn't work well is if you're messaging someone who's not available, expecting to get an immediate response. Okay, so you have to pay attention to this green here says Josh is online and he's ready. Okay, if Josh were to go offline or do a do not disturb, this would turn red, and I would know then that he's not available. Email would be the best way to communicate with him, so we can read it later on. Other tabs, we've got files. So this is a central place to keep files that we are working on currently. It's very important that your organization understand that these are documents we are going to be working on. If there's something else that you have for storage, for archiving purposes, employee records, licensing, or anything like that that's not being worked on is kind of done, that should go into your document management application, your public drive, or wherever you're storing the final copies. This should be a great location for anything that's currently in progress. We'll talk about notebooks, but you also have the ability to integrate OneNote at this level inside of Teams. So what Teams does is it actually creates a notebook for each one of these channels when you add the tab to it, and it allows you to carve up information as you go. And the last tab we're going to talk about is just the To-Do Planner app. This is a way to assign tasks, to set dates, and to kind of track what's happening, what's going on within 365. You can add apps at any time, or add tabs. And basically what it is it's going to give you a list of all the things that you have available. You'll see that you have Forms, PowerPoint, Power BI, all these different apps, which we can talk about at a different time. And then you can see down here, all these companies are integrating their solutions into Microsoft 365. So you can see that it's a platform that developers are really pushing. It's the future of collaboration for Microsoft users. And it's definitely an opportunity for third parties to integrate their solutions. This is constantly being updated as part of your 365 subscription. So new information will come out every week. You'll get notifications. Hey, this is a new feature. This is being sunsetted. And it'll provide information to you on how-tos. It'll give you links to things at the Microsoft site to learn more about how this application runs. So really quick, we'll just go through adding one. If I want to create a team, I literally just click down at the bottom, create a team. It's going to ask me, hey, do I want to go from scratch, or do I want to use some of these templates that they've already created? Do we want to create a team for a project? Do we want to create an employee onboarding team? Do we want to do something from an incident response team, an organization or a store? So it has all kinds of different team templates available to you to kind of start off easier on your side. I'm going to create one from scratch. I'm going to create a private team. I'm going to call this leadership. Or leadership group. I'll create that. It'll create the team, and it's going to ask me who I want to involve. So it'll ask me to manage the team. If I wanted to, I could add other members of leadership to this team. However, I'm going to show you that, hey, I don't have to add anybody. It can just be me. And Josh will not see this when he logs in if he's not part of this team. So here's the leadership team. For our organization, we do have a leadership team, and we utilize that for all of our weekly meetings, financial reports that we're talking about, any sort of things that are going on. We used it heavily during COVID, just for brainstorming policies and communications and weekly reports and kind of storing all the stuff so that we could file for PPP. It was a great place to bring everything central, and we could talk about it every week. When setting up a team, it's very important you answer some questions. Who's going to be part of this team? Who needs access to this information? It may be cross-departmental. So you may have your sales team and your ops team needing access to this, like customer onboarding. Customer onboarding, you need the operations to roll it out, but sales has to be part of it because they're going to be part of the meetings. They're going to answer questions, and they're going to provide information as to what was sold to that prospect during the sales cycle. So it's important that sales and operations are working together. You got to determine what information you're storing, how it's going to be used. What tabs or apps are you going to need? Are you going to need notes? Are you going to need something else? Are you going to set up files? Are you going to just use it for chat? Are you going to have to set tasks and things like that? All of this should be planned up front so you know exactly how you're rolling this out. Okay, you can change it at a later date, but it's always good to start with a plan of who's going to need access and to what. One of the things that was instrumental in our organization to improve our operations and to take that next step as a company was the use of OneNote. There's other note-taking apps out there like Evernote. The reason why we went with OneNote is because it fully integrates with everything 365. And again, you're paying for this subscription. You're paying $12.50 a month. You're paying $20 a month. You're paying for these subscriptions. You have all of these tools. It's best to start using that and getting the value for that license. So what you can do is you can have all of your meetings managed by OneNote inside of the teams. I say it many times, it's amazing how many people sit down at a table and then those 5 or 6 people leave and they have a completely different idea of what just happened at that meeting. The takeaways from the meeting are completely different. Some didn't even take notes or take anything away from it. OneNote is a way to basically put down on paper or electronically what we talked about, what we agreed to, and it's a great historical reference at a later date. So when you go into this example, this is Josh, we'll say this is Josh and I's weekly one-to-one. So we have a notebook for that. So every meeting we'll create a new, come on. So every week we'll create like a new day. All right, we'll use the same template. And that template keeps us on task, on point, and makes sure we hit all the things we need to do every single week. We usually start off, I don't know if anybody's ever done Traction, Gino Wickman, great book, great operational book. We kind of follow that to a certain extent, and we have every week we talk about good news. We spend a couple minutes. We do our scorecard. What did we do? What can we measure as part of our team that means success to us? We've defined that. Every week we look at it. If these things are going well, we're being successful, and if they're not, we talk about them. We talk about new opportunities. So we'll throughout the week we'll put on new things that have come up. We'll put them in here so we discuss. Any customer employee good news or bad news, things we have to discuss. We look at our rocks, our goals for the short term, for the long term. We review our to-do list, and then we issue process for the remaining 30, 45 minutes. And inside of this, we keep a list of all of our issues that we want to talk about. And it forces us to stay focused. We're not running off on tangents. These are the things that we got to talk about. If there's a tangent, we put it on the list and we prioritize it. Once we're done talking about something, for example, this one, we need a way to communicate future updates to customers. Once we get some sort of traction on what needs to be done, we can take that and we can move it to the archive section. So we have some documents or some issues in here that we've archived, and that's a way to keep the issue list fresh for only things that you're working on. Now, in case anyone has any questions, just so you know, there is a question and answer button in the top right corner. If you have any questions, Josh is going to be fielding those, kind of organizing those, and he's going to hop in case someone has one that's relevant to what we're talking about. But if you do want more detail on a specific topic, just in the question and answer section, put your name, what you want to further talk about, and your account manager, or if you're a prospect, we can talk at a later date about those specific things. So you can hit us up with questions at any time you'd like. All right. So you have your one-to-one meetings, which is a great way to every week look at what you're doing. We have meetings on onboarding. So we can, let's say Josh is coming on board to a new role. We can say, in the first 30 days, we want to have these accomplished, and we go through these and we keep it here. So every week we take a look. Hey, we're going through onboarding. Are we on schedule? Are we not on schedule? Do we have to tweak the schedule? Did something change? So it keeps all this information right in front of us, and we can continue to make sure that we're doing what we said we were going to do. If we go into the customer onboarding, and we look at the notebook for that, if we're bringing a new customer on board, the discovery phase is huge for our organization. It's basically the launching pad and how well we're going to support that company. We need to make sure that we have all the data. Everything that we talked about as that customer was coming on board, we have access to that. So we may have, 15 customers we brought on board. These were the key kickoff meeting notes. What were some of the challenges? Who's going to do what? Just taking some overall notes for billing. We got to do this, make sure this happens. And we're all working off of the same information, the same meeting notes. When we do onboarding, we also utilize the files here. We have an onboarding tracker. So as we're doing meeting notes and we're putting notes in the system and we're talking about the main contacts, the key people, what they have, the challenges that we're seeing. We're also keeping track of all the things we need to do to successfully onboard a customer. And this list is ever changing. So we know that we have to get all the customer name, address information, who's it completed by. So we made sure all of this stuff happens. We make sure we send cookies as a thank you for the opportunity to service your account. We do a discovery checklist from their IP address information. All of these things we as a team are now working on together, and everybody has access to it. And the most important thing is I don't have to bother Josh to say, Josh, where are we on this project? I can go in and I can see everything that's done and when it was completed. It's just a great way to limit the number of interruptions that we have. Once it's all done, we bundle up all the information and the onboarding documentation. We store it in our document management system, and we can reference that way in the future and say, well, when we brought them on board, how come we didn't see this? So it's a great source of information. Lastly, if we have some sort of customer project that we're working with, let's say we're rolling out a new RDS server from remote desktop. We can have meetings with our customers, actual employees of other organizations. They can see this information and we can take notes together instead of having these calls, talking about information and then walking away and saying, oh my gosh, you know, nobody's on the same page right now. So we can have planning meetings, we can have follow-up items, and we can have good solid documentation on what we talked about. Same thing on the file side. If we have, let's say we're rolling out 50 new users, or we're doing 20 PCs, very easily I can go in at any point in time and visually see where we stand. I do not have to bother the tech team. I do not have to bother the account manager. I can go in and I can see these two are green, they're good. Yellow, they're in progress. This red one, there must have been an issue with this user and they're working through it. And most importantly, the customer knows that as well. They can come in and they can see where we stand with all of these. So it's very important that you utilize OneNote and these files to have these meetings and to discuss and all make sure you're on the same page. Now, Josh, I'm just going to take a quick break. Can you still hear me? Am I still good?
Mm-hmm, of course, absolutely.
Okay, sweet, thank you. All right, Josh, any questions yet?
No, nothing in the question section so far.
Wow, I must be fantastically clear right now. All right.
Exactly.
If anyone's got any questions, don't hesitate to throw them our way. I prefer to be a little more interactive than just me kind of barking this whole time. The next thing I was going to talk about is the tasks and planners. So many times we leave these meetings with action items, and those action items are lost. And there's no way to actually hold anybody accountable for what was said and what was promised. And you know, accountability sometimes can come off as a negative thing. For me, accountability is if you say you're going to do something by a certain day or time, you do that. And organizations that commit to that are successful. When an organization says to you, hey, I'm going to have this to you by Friday, and they deliver on that, you're feeling that that company can take care of you is elevated. You believe that they can support you the way you need to be supported, and they're true to their word. Okay. Same thing when every time you have a conversation with an internal associate, you make commitments all of the time, especially at these meetings. Making sure that when you have these conversations and you agree to something, getting them in a central place for accountability and you can see what you committed to is very important. So tasks and planners is basically just a way to make visible to everyone on the team what needs to be done and what was committed to. At Copeland, we utilize tasks for operational pieces. So it's what we're working on for CTS for the most part. We have a ticketing system. Most companies have an ERP, which is like your medical bill system, or Mass, Sage, you know, other operational applications. And a lot of those have work tickets, tasks, and things like that. We utilize Planner and tasks specifically for what we have to do for Copeland. Okay, so it also makes sure that we are spending time on our company. Okay, we're not just constantly customer facing. Okay, so from our meetings, what we can do is we can say, okay, we've made a commitment, we're going to do something. We talked about, hey, we need to roll out a brand new communication to our customer base about how we're going to roll out feature updates. Okay, this was discussed at a meeting. So during that meeting, we'll have Teams open. And we'll have that conversation about this specific topic. and we'll say, all right, we're rolling out a new way to do it. Someone has to do something, okay? So we're making a commitment. By this date, we are going to send an email out to all of our customers, and we are going to communicate how this feature update is going to happen. So part of our meeting is we would flop over to tasks, and we would create a new task. We'd say, hey, communicate to customer base the new feature update process. We can set a date when it's due. We can say, hey, this is due by the end of the month. We can assign that. If we've got 2 account managers, which we do at our organization, plus a couple others, we can assign it to multiple people. And this will show in their buckets of things they have to do. And then we add the task. So now there's a task in here of things we have to do that we committed to. You can set the priority. You can say it's urgent. You can say it's not urgent, but it's important. Or it's just normal priority. You can also move it to different buckets. So you can have different buckets of customer facing, internal tasks, goals, company targets. You can have different buckets of tasks, and you can carve them up to filter to take a look at what needs to be done. So you can see for this specific one, we want to work with the customer support team to ensure the license reconciliation report process goes out. Okay, so that's an example of one. This is the one we just added. So I can say, hey, we started this yesterday, so this is technically in progress. You can add some items for checklists. So you can break down each quote unquote to do or task into multiple items. We have to do this, we have to do that, and we have to close out the job ticket, and we have to bill, whatever checklist that you need to do. It allows you to get that detail. And then once that task is in, I can see the schedule. This is my month. I know on this date, I've got 2 items to take a look at. I can filter out only the to-dos versus the goals. And I can also see completed items and what days they were due. So you can group by bucket, you can do lists. There's all different types of things that you can do. So for example, one of the best ways in which we're rolling this out is during our employee evaluation. So we do quarterly evals, and then the yearly eval is kind of the biggie. But every quarter we set goals for the next 90 days, and we talk about the goals for the previous 90 days. In order to kind of go to a place where we see that and we talk about that, we put this in tasks. So you can see here, if I had a one-to-one with Josh and I said, Josh, over the next 90 days, we want you to be certified in 365 Power BI. All right, we've set a goal. It's by 5/31. Every week we're looking at these goals. It's coming up. So as we get closer to that date, hey, Josh, where are we on this? Josh will be like, hey, I didn't even start it yet, but now, hey, I'm going to pick it up. And it brings it to the forefront to make sure that we're doing what we said we were going to do.
Hey, Eric, if I may interject here.
Sure.
Got a great question here from Sarah, just asking, do you recommend utilizing Teams as the hub for all of your Microsoft Office products, or do you also go into, the individual programs?
That's a great question. So the individual programs, the only thing different from the individual programs that, or anything lacking from using the individual programs is there's some integration there to tell you who's in the document, who's working on it and looking at it, where if you're in Teams, that seems to work a little bit better. It should happen, but working outside of those apps, it could be a challenge for new users to kind of understand when they save a spreadsheet or they do something, where it's supposed to, how do I save it into Teams? I think you start with Teams being that central hub and everything is there. And then as your repository grows, your files grow and everyone becomes comfortable, then you can start doing things a little differently. Like for example, if I bring up this notebook, you can see the performance isn't fantastic. I can actually open up this OneNote notebook I can open it in a browser. So if you have the browser only version, you can open it in a browser, or I can open it in the local app. And it's going to work a little bit better than what's inside of Teams. This may confuse people, okay? The most important thing is you're kicking off Teams and you're getting going with that, okay? And you're using it, then you can kind of branch off into the apps once you're comfortable. All right, so what this will do is it'll automatically open up this, this notebook inside of Microsoft 10 app, the OneNote app. Thank you, Sarah, good question. So this is a great way, you know, how many times we sit down at these employee evaluations and we say, hey, I really want you to work on this. I really want you to work on this. It'd be great if you got some training. Now you're putting it down for everybody to see. You can't hide from it, but also it's not a negative thing. It's a good thing, because now I can look at that list and I can say, man, Josh, is it realistic for us to really hit that when we said we were going to? And we may have a conversation about it and say, listen, there's too much on our plates right now. We've got to reprioritize. We had that specific situation happen at Copeland. The leadership got together, we had all of these goals and aspirations we wanted to hit, we started to get overwhelmed. So we had a meeting where we all sat down, we said, listen, we're gonna take the top 5 things, get these done first, what's really urgent and important, attack those, and we can't start another one of the other items until we close out or the priority shifts of another item. So it helps facilitate those conversations and really talk about what's really happening. We're not just saying, hey, you know, let's go do that. All right. One thing to note is that this data is not backed up. It's one of the key things I want to talk about today. Is it's Microsoft, if you read their terms and conditions, which changes all the time and it's very legal, they're basically saying, listen, we will ensure that your data that you have not deleted is there and available to you at 99.99% uptime. What they are not committing to is backing up your data. So if somebody gets CryptoLocker or somebody deletes a file, if you delete a file, it goes into like a recovery stage for 30 days and then it is gone. If you're not backing up that information is lost. So right now, we've got years and years of information stored in Teams. We are backing that up twice a day to an external source to make sure that we don't lose all of this knowledge, because that's really what this is. This is a central place for all of our knowledge, and it's critical to our operations. So if you have any questions about, hey, I want to talk to you about backup for 365, we can have that conversation offline. Just let us know. So now we kind of get into the why. So this is my favorite part of this discussion, is because why do we need to start using Teams? And I heard a term used that I keep reusing anytime I get a chance. It sounds a little jargony, but it's called operational velocity, right? How fast and how streamlined is your organization? How fast can you work? And what it really comes down to is the tools that we give to our employees, okay, should be able to amplify their performance. So we obviously we got to get good people, put them in the seats, get the right people in the seats. Providing them these tools to better operate allows you to grow your business without at the same rate growing your staff. So for example, at Copeland, we support 4,000 users with 15 people, and we feel we do it effectively, okay? If we were to bring on 5 more customers next month, we may or may not need to add staff. So if you can add customers and revenue coming into your organization, but keep your G&A and your expenses going at a lower rate of increase, those profit margins are growing. They're increasing because you're able to do more with your team. These tools today can help you do more with your team. You're paying for them, you might as well use them, okay? Secondly is you're taking that first step into the future. And the future of 365 is data analytics. I say future, it's very near future, okay? It's not something that is, 5 years down the road. It is the now future. We're talking 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. For example, I got an email from 365 saying I'm not spending enough focus time on the things I need to do. I'm spending too much time within meetings, too much time. I'm responding to emails within 10 minutes. It's giving me all kinds of analytics to improve my performance. So what did it do? It asked me if I wanted to schedule some focus time. Just for the heck of it, I said, sure, computer person, schedule me some focus time. It blocked off an hour and a half every single day based on what I currently have in my schedule and my tendencies to do my work. The past 2 weeks of work have been incredibly productive for me. I cannot believe how much I've been able to get done sticking to this focus time. Okay. Once you start using all of these tools, all of that data is going to aggregate and you're going to start to see who's using the tools. You're going to see how your team is performing. It's keeping track of all of this information and analytics. You've been hearing about it for years. It is the future of business. And if you're not paying attention to these things, you are going to be the slow company. You're going to be the company that doesn't know what's happening. You're relying on the word of your management staff saying, oh no, things are growing great. No, we're doing really well. So-and-so is doing a great job. Now you're getting into a spot where you can't tell me that because the data says differently. So it's very important. Right now, what we can look at right now, if I pull up the customer onboarding team, and I look at this team, I can see analytics for this team. Who's in the team? How many active users are using this team? How many apps do we have going? How many meetings? How many files? How much data is in there? Engagement, who's posting, who's not posting? So how many times do we have that person who we can never get a hold of? They're not using the platform that we've agreed to use. We can see right here, they're not using it. So all of this information at the company level is important. At the personal level, I'm going to pull up my actual desktop. I'm going to pull up MyAnalytics. Okay. So Josh, can you see my analytics?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, so this right here is my personal analytics. This is not the demo environment, this is mine. It's asking, do you have enough interrupted time to get your work done? All right, I've shifted this number. I mean, you may say 32%, that's okay. It was 10%. And this information was able to help me do my job better. Am I spending enough time being disconnected? So everybody talks about the wellness aspect. Are they being disconnected? Are you answering emails outside of hours? All of this data is in there and it can help you be a better individual. Collaboration. Can I be more productive working with other people? I'm in meetings very often. It can tell me all about those meetings. Who am I talking to the most? Are they productive? Are they going over the length of the scheduled meeting? All of this data is in this tool. And when we talk about operational velocity, if you want to really grow your revenue and just increase those net profits, hire less people, but grow your customer base. And improve your product by the delivery of what your employees can do. There's so much data in here. I haven't even gotten into half of this stuff, but we're constantly looking at this, constantly trying to improve. So it talks about focus time specifically, my well-being time. It's telling you, hey, there's new ways you can try delaying delivery of your emails. Send emails when you're ready. So for example, if I'm writing emails at, let's say I'm working a Saturday for some reason, and I'm sending emails, and if my team's getting hit with emails, I may not want them to respond. I can delay the delivery of that message till Monday morning, so I can keep them away from the office so they come in Monday nice and refreshed. Are you taking time off? All this information makes for a better, well-rounded performer. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. But if you don't start getting into this now, you're never going to, you're going to be behind the game, constantly trying to keep up. So I know that Matt and I talk a lot. I've got external people I just started talking to, quote unquote important people. I've never actually clicked on that because I don't know how it determines if you're important or not. It talks about all the people I'm working with. So this information is critical for performance. And from an aspect of COVID, okay, COVID kind of thrust our business into we need remote workers, right? Now we should be looking at, okay, we know we can work remote. We can probably work better remote. Okay, we can probably do a better job. We can probably do a better job as a team if we have to be remote. These tools allowed our team on March 14th of last year to go fully remote. We have one person in the office handling checks and things like that. Another person ended up going into the office just because the work from home environment was just too challenging. Everybody else has been remote, and we've not only survived, but we've thrived. And we've thrived just because of the ability to commit to tools like this to help our management staff and help our employees perform. So just to kind of wrap up, this is just the starting point for the future of business productivity software. It's very important that you commit to this stuff. The days of buying a license and installing it, waiting 5 years and then upgrading are over. The subscription base, while some people are very frustrated with paying for something every month, it brings you so much more value if you utilize it. It's let's say if you buy Microsoft Office, it's $300, $8 a month if you quote unquote lease it or subscribe it. You're looking at what, a two-year return on investment. But you're getting all of these other tools built right in. So we didn't even get into like Power BI and dashboards and things like that. All of these tools are just being built on every week. Microsoft is committed to this. It's the future. So if you want to see more videos and more content, you can follow Josh. You can follow myself on LinkedIn. Copeland is committed to, with our marketing team, Shovel the Sidewalk. We work with them all the time to get more videos up on LinkedIn, so we can kind of help teach you about how-tos in Microsoft Teams and these tools. So Josh does more of the weekly how-to videos, usually posting once a week. We're kind of trying to put together like a podcast and other topics so that we can deliver some more content to you. My side, I'm trying to do a few more meetings weekly, or videos weekly, but mine are more strategic and how you can take and leverage these technologies to improve your business. So those 2 videos per week can give you some insights. And then most importantly, your account manager, either it's myself, Josh, Tom, or Tom, we're all here to answer your questions with these. So it's very important that you reach out to us and say, hey, let's start talking about these. Help us get this off the ground. Because once you start, every department's going to wonder why that department's running so well. Why are they running such effective meetings? We want to do it, and it will spread to your organization. So with that being said, that's all I have to present. Does anyone have any questions?
We got one here. Yeah. Is there a recommended resource to help getting started with Teams and growing it? Perhaps like a Teams or 365 for dummies was the question. Absolutely.
And I'm telling you, don't feel like it's too big of a thing to take on. We took it on, even though we're nerds. Okay, we know how this stuff works. I'll be honest with you. I was terrified. I was terrified. Bringing on teams and letting the Copeland staff, with some guidelines, just take this and run with it and create their own channels and chat and things like that. I'm a control freak. I was very, very nervous. I let that happen. It's okay to have a launching ground. My first step would be I would sit down with your staff and I would say, what weekly meeting or what simple task do we do that needs to involve a bunch of people, and can we use it in teams? And then I would recommend talking to your account manager. You have account management time, you have contract hours to use for these types of things, you're paying for it. I recommend you use it. They'll help you get off the ground. There's videos on YouTube, so many videos. We have sent out emails to our customer base saying, hey, these Microsoft webinars are coming up. Introduction to Teams, introduction to OneNote, things like that. I suggest you partake in those. It's an hour to learn so much. But lastly, just get in and use it. Worst comes to worst, we have to delete a team. Try it yourself. Log into Teams, try it, spend an hour, hour and a half, and just playing around. That's literally how we learn. Again, we're geeks, right? We're in this stuff all the time. We literally sit here, Josh and I, as we were preparing for this webinar, we're like, oh, hey, look at that. Like, if you don't get in there and use it, you don't see it. Like, for example, just hovering over the back button in Teams gives you the history of where you've been, so you can go back to a specific point in time. You don't find those things out by reading somewhere. You find that stuff out by using the tool. Just make sure you just ask questions. Ask your account manager, be committed to these tools improving your business. If you make that commitment and you start somewhere small and you start rolling it out, I'm telling you, it's going to be a game changer for your organization, because the organizations that are excited to go back to the way it was before COVID, where we can all sit in a room and pass papers back and forth. Those organizations are not going to be able to recruit good talent. The next generation coming through is expecting work from home capabilities. And it's not a bad thing. It's not, oh, they're lazy or they don't want to come in the office. They want to have mobility. They want to be able to work when they need to work. And they may put in more hours. So you won't be able to recruit people, and you're just going to be slow. Things are going to turn around so slowly in your organization, and you're not going to have any data to say, hey, what's happening? Well, I don't know. Well, okay, let's talk about it. You're going to be talking about things that are completely subjective. This is objective data going into one central location on how you're using these tools. Any other questions? Josh, I take your silence to be a no.
Was not. I wasn't sure if you were looking for me to say, but no. There currently, I do not have anything else lined up in the Q&A section.
This if I leave you with anything, reach out to your account manager. So this webinar is specifically for customers and a couple other select few people, but reach out to your account managers. This is the stuff that we love. We will talk about this so much because you're leveraging a piece of technology and you will see improvements. You will see improvements in communication, organization. You can roll out a project with multiple parties involved and everybody can actually be on the same page. Thank you everybody for your time. I really appreciate it. This is definitely recorded, so we will we'll work to get this recording. We'll probably chop it up into some sections. If you do need anything, please don't hesitate to email me or Josh and just request it, and we'll help you out as best as we can.